Let's do it again. All right, we are back with another pick'em video. Going to be going over my favorite plays for the NBA today, and then also touching on a little bit of football as well. A ton of sports today, so definitely some value on the board. I'll be attacking, Sleeper later on. They do have a promotion up right now, so they have discounts for McCaffrey and Josh Allen, I believe. That's for Wildcard Wednesday, which is a weekly thing over on Sleeper. I'll have the graphics popped up for their discounts there, but they're 20% off. They're pretty much free squares, so definitely get on Sleeper if you're not. And then Underdog also throwing some promotions at us today. They've been popping up with discounts like every couple hours. Whenever playoffs are happening, they're always throwing discounts around because they know there's interest in those games. And then Chalkboard, any of the other tools I'm using, hit the links in the description. You'll be able to get discounts and things like that. But before we get into things, want to go over the video picks from last time. Ended up going 2 for 4, so 50% on the day. Unfortunate, no Nick Richards. That game was loving that line. And then McHale and Claxton, crushed their lines on the over and on the under here. McCollum, that's a blowout. He played really well in the minutes he did play. But Phoenix took care of business there pretty quickly. And then Porzingis with the hook, that one hurt. Final minutes of that very exciting Denver and Boston game. But yeah, just hooked us with his 8th rebound late in that game to get him to that 10 mark. But yeah, we'll try to definitely, improve on this. 50% isn't the worst in the world, but we'll definitely try to do better. And again, the board's pretty solid today with a lot of stuff going on. But we'll start with NBA. Going to be doing this one just a little bit quicker. I'm going to expedite things. It's about 1 p.m. right now, so should have plenty of time to get these in. I'm going to be starting off with Jalen Duren. Now, this is an early game. That's why I'm starting with him. Should have about 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours to get this one in. I'm going to be going to Duren's under fantasy score. I know a lot of people are on his 17.5 points and assists. Looks like that did get bumped up to 18. And I think, I wouldn't mind that spot for him. I just don't think he's going to get the blocks and steals today. I think there's a great chance for blowout potential. And I like the under here. Giannis is going to come back healthy, even though I think that it's going to be Damian Lillard that does a lot of his damage to this team like it kind of has been recently. Duren's a pretty solid defender down low, but Dame's able to cook these guards, these young guards on Detroit. And again, I think it could be a blowout like it has been in the past, the past few games these guys have played. And I think Duren could potentially hit this line while also going under his fantasy score. So I'm under 35.5 for his fantasy score. Let's go check him out. I guess we'll do it over here because they got the optimizer. Let's check out Duren's line for fantasy score. This is the DG grind or daily grind. Sorry, DG fantasy daily grind fantasy optimizer. It's really nice. It's an optimizer that shows market value. You can decide lines based on like where the other markets have their lines and kind of find inefficiencies within the market. But yeah, you can see right here, 53.35% chance of hitting this under 35.5. Looks like 3 sports books do have this line below this, which is nice to see. 34.2 over on DraftKings, 33.5 on BetMGM, and then 34.1 on Bovada. So we're getting a pretty good discount here at that 35 mark. So definitely liking this spot. And again, with the blowout potential and things like that, I think we're really good here. So Duren, could have a solid game scoring the ball, but if he only plays 25 minutes or whatever, he shouldn't get there. Let's go to Duren again. These guys have played once before this year. We'll go to the PRA just because that's the biggest thing for fantasy score, and then we'll look at the blocks and steals. He's been killing it, especially with no Cade Cunningham. Again, that points and assist line is definitely not a bad one, I don't think. But in 2023 as a whole, he's been very consistent. In the game against Milwaukee, looks like he had, this is back on the 8th, he had 28, so 11 points and 12 rebounds and 5 assists. So didn't get there, but was pretty close. And then almost a bigger part of the fantasy score is those blocks and steals, and he doesn't typically get them against Milwaukee. So 0 back in that matchup, that'd be huge for the fantasy score line for him. And his PRA is popping up at what? 29.5. So we're getting a pretty good discount on the 35 fantasy score, especially if he doesn't get any blocks or steals, which he might, like he did not get it last matchup. So Duren under 35.5. I'm liking that. Let's go to the projection model though. Jalen Duren. They are projecting right around that line. So they're actually projecting 35.92. So the projection model is slightly on the over here. In terms of the hit rate, it's been pretty 50-50. So again, I'm kind of banking on a blowout here, but even if it's not, it's going to be close. It's going to be a sweaty one for sure. I just think he goes, very much on the under here. Maybe 33, 32. It'd be great if he, didn't even come close. But liking Duren under here for us today. But moving along, let's go to the next game. This one's also in that same game. Going to be going to Giannis. I kind of talked about him earlier, but it was the Damian Lillard show the last time these guys faced off. Giannis only scored 22 points in that game, and seeing some pretty good odds on a first quarter play for Giannis, and it's going to be under 8.5 points in the first quarter. So we'll go check that out on Outlier, kind of be able to see that. Again, Outlier doesn't have fantasy scores just yet, but I think they're working on it. But we can look at first quarter points, with some pretty good visual data here. Not Victor Wembanyama. We'll talk about him in a second. Giannis, go to his 8.5 first quarter points. He's been under this in 4 of the last 5 games. You extend this to 10 games, it's 8 of the last 10 games. And then if you extend this to 2023, it's 67% of the time he's been under this. Now, it's a great matchup against Detroit. The power forwards, they're giving up 18th ranked in terms of points per game. This isn't per first quarter. This is just per game. So 27th ranked on the year. But the head-to-head, I do like that. They have faced off each other twice this year. Looks like Dern didn't play in that other game, but he's been under in both of these games. It was, again, both these games was Damian Lillard kind of exceeding, not expectations, but kind of taking the head of these games. And this was a close one. Only had 4 points in the first quarter, and then this was a total blowout, and he only had 8 points in the first quarter. So, yes, you can look at these. These were last year. I'm not putting too much attention towards these, but he's dominated them. This is also without Damian Lillard in the lineup, though. So, looks like they definitely go to Dame more in this matchup, and I'm liking this Giannis under, especially with the hit rate on the entire year and kind of recently. He is coming off some rest, though. Didn't play last game, so maybe he'll be fresh and come out cruising in the first quarter. But again, I like the hit rate, I like the data, and I like the odds on it too. So let's go to Giannis over here. See those first quarter stats. My internet wants to load. First quarter points, 8.5. Under is 53.18% chance to hit. We do only have 2 data points for this one, but they're giving us minus 130 odds. So over on FanDuel and on DraftKings. So definitely don't mind that. This was that last matchup against them. Again, this is with Cade in the lineup, but with no Duren. But yeah, this was back in December. The Bucks took care of business for sure. But if we look at the Bucks stats, Giannis only had 22 points. Dame had 33. They each only played, Giannis only played 26 minutes. Dame only 30. So I like it. I like the spot for him. And yeah, really liking this one. So those are our 2 first plays. Those are the 3 o'clock games. So get those ones in early. But let's move a little bit later to the 7 o'clock slate. Going to be starting with Victor Wembanyama. We saw him in there earlier. We're not going first quarter, though. We're just going to go to the full game. 21.5 for his points. He's been crushing this against good teams. Now he's going up against Washington, so it's a great spot for him. Boston, 27. Atlanta, 26. Obviously not the best defense. Charlotte, 26. Not the best defense. Cleveland, pretty good defense, 24. So he's been crushing this. He's not going to get a whole bunch of minutes, but he's been able to do it in those limited minutes. But we're going over here. Let's check it out on Outlier, see what he's been doing, recently so far this year, things like that. But he's really hitting his stride, especially kind of this mid-season. And he's another guy that just came off some rest. I think he's still, kind of questionable, but I think he's going to go. No, it looks like he's good to go. But yeah, he was questionable going into it. Looks like he should be, well rested and ready to roll. And he's got a great matchup against Washington. So you could look at a lot of his things. Honestly, if you just typed in Wembanyama, that'd probably be the best way to do it on this stat. The points line is his top one right now on the over. PRA is also up there. Points and assists also on the over. Everything pretty much on the over for this matchup. And it makes sense because he's going against Washington. He's got a day's rest. So it looks good for him. Again, we'll just look at that points line, 21.5. 4 last 5 games, he's crushed this. 37% of the entire year. But again, this was kind of rookie, getting his feet wet in the league. And now he's kind of, figured it out and looks really good. They haven't played each other this year. But in terms of points allowed, obviously Washington's not too great. 30th, dead last in the league in terms of giving up points. To centers, they're dead last, 22 a game to centers. And yeah, everything's looking pretty solid for him. Coming off a game's rest is nice as well. So a lot of things pointing towards the over, including the odds. So 52.52% chance to go over here. Now the lines are a little bit different around the league, around the market. 22.5 over on FanDuel. 20.5 over on Pinnacle. DraftKings got this at 21.5. BetMGM's got this at 21.5. A lot of the 21.5s are very much heavily to go over, and the 20.5 over on Pinnacle. So it's a line that seems like it has a lot of variance to it. But just personally looking at this game, the idea that, he's going to be having a great matchup, potentially even no Daniel Gafford in this lineup. So he should be having a field day and kind of do whatever he wants to do. So 21.5 for Wembanyama. Do want to go to the projection model really quick. Check him out over here. Points, they're predicting 19.89. So the projection model doesn't love this one either. We would like to see, maybe they're saying something about his availability for the game. Rest is available for Saturday's game. Sitting out back to back. However, the rookie phenom will still operate under the minutes restriction. So that's what we thought. So he's not going over those 26 minutes. It's pretty much what it's been recently. If we want to look at his minutes, 27, 27, 20, 21, 25, 26. So he's been able to do it in those 20-ish minutes. And yeah, great matchup against Washington. So I still like this one. Wembanyama over 21.5 points. Going to be rocking with that. Next up, going to be going to another game in that 7-10 spot. LaMelo, another guy coming off injury, kind of getting back into the groove of things. I'm just going to go into his fantasy score at 41.0. Again, another one where I liked the matchup for him. It's against Philadelphia, but they're coming off a back-to-back. They shouldn't have their, much of their legs as they usually do. I think they're also home, so that's a kind of a big boost in terms of being the home team. Don't go in there and just crush these guys. So coming off a back-to-back and they're playing away, they should be able to keep up with Philly a little bit. This is a 10-point spread, obviously, but I expect Embiid to have a great game. Looks like he's game time decision, so that's interesting. But yeah, LaMelo should be good to go. And it's a great matchup for him, especially if with no Embiid, but they're home. These guys are coming off back-to-back and things like that. So LaMelo over 41.5. Let's check it out on DG Fantasy really quick. LaMelo Ball. And we're seeing that right on top, 53.2% chance to hit. Again, we're getting it at 41.0. DraftKings got this at 41.9. BetMGM is right on that as well. And Bovada's up to 42.6. So again, just getting a discount on this line. You could look at some other things. His assist line's at 6.5. It was at 7.5 last game. He hit that. I think he had 8. So again, could be a good spot for him in a lot of different ways. Rebounds looks like the over, points and assists. So again, I liked attacking LaMelo in this spot, but I'm liking the fantasy score just because he's been able to be over that pretty consistently, especially recently. But he's getting back in the groove of things after coming off that injury. If we check him out over on the projection model over here, the hit rate's been incredible. Pretty much all year been hitting this. 80% of the last 5, 90% of the last 10. In terms of the whole season, 74% of the time he's been over this. And the projection model likes it, so it's one that is pointing in the right direction in terms of projection. And they're at 41.92. Again, if he gets 41.1, that's all we need. And again, especially with Embiid now popping up on the injury report, potentially being a game time decision. I don't think he'll sit, but if he does, that's just another boost in a good direction. So LaMelo going to be our 4th play, and then our 5th and final play is going to be Rudy Gobert. This was a value play for sure. It is bumped up to 29.5. This was at 28.5. I took it pretty quickly just because he's been crushing this line. Going up against OKC, I think it's a great matchup for a center, a bigger center, going against Chet. Chet's been great. He's just kind of a skinnier dude, and Gobert should be able to take advantage of that matchup. And he did it in one game, didn't do it in another game. But again, he's hit this in 5 straight games. We will check it out at 29.5, and I'll kind of just throw it in here as a placeholder. But just take that with a grain of salt, just because I took it at 28.5. But we'll check him out over here. We'll see where the odds are. I wouldn't be surprised if it's now projecting on the under of this 29.5. Also do want to point out some fantasy scores are popping up. Jaren Jackson Jr. over 40.5. It looks like a really good one, 55.36% chance to hit. These will probably move around a little bit, but PrizePicks looks like they're either coming out a little bit too high on some of these guys or a little bit too low. But yeah, definitely check these ones out. Jaren Jackson's looking definitely like a good one. I'm just scared that they are going up against Chicago, so these are all lines coming out for that one game. But yeah, I'm always scared about blowout potential for the Grizzlies just because they have a skeleton crew out there right now. But yeah, I always check these out. But let's go to Rudy Gobert. That's the guy we wanted to look at. And we're seeing 29.5 right here under. Yeah, PRA is now on the under, 51.3% chance on the under. But at 28.5, definitely favored on the over. We'll check out what he's been doing, again, especially recently. I kind of already said 5 games in a row he's been over this line pretty consistently, pretty easily too. And yeah, here we go. 5 games, kind of crushed this line the past 5. In terms of the matchups, they weren't the easiest in the world. They weren't the hardest in the world with Portland, Detroit, Memphis. But did it against LA, did it against Orlando, which is nice to see. And loving this matchup, especially for centers. Points allowed is 11th, rebounds allowed 23rd, and assists allowed 26th. 2023 as a whole, 33% of the games he's gone over this, so another one that doesn't look great in terms of the whole year. But recently been pretty solid. The last 20 games, 45. last 10, 50. So right around that 50% mark. In the head-to-head, kind of a 50-50 line as well, as they have matched up twice, had 33 back in November, and then had 15 only back in December, right after Christmas. So I think he's in a groove. I think he's going to continue in that groove and make this 6 straight. And again, I just like the matchup going against Chet. With the 28.5, it felt a lot better. You can see a lot of these games are at 29, so it did look a little bit better on the 28.5 line. But if you still want to go to this, he's been crushing it lately. And we'll point out the projection model just really quick to see if they are liking that as well. 29.5 is right here. So they are projecting a little bit on the under, 28.67, which is right around where the line was before. So yeah, maybe a stay away here, but did want to point it out as something as I'm taking. So those are the 5 picks for NBA. We'll really quickly go over NFL. But Jalen Duren under 35 fantasy score, Giannis under 8.5 first quarter points, Wembanyama over 21.5 points, LaMelo over 41.5 fantasy score, and then Rudy Gobert over 28.5 PRA, but is up to 29.5. Maybe a stay away on that one. But yeah, that will do it for NBA. Let's jump into some NFL. All right, so for NFL picks, I kind of wanted to show off the correlation tool over on Daily Grind Fantasy. It's the same tool I was using for the optimizer. It's the same. So the optimizer is similar to OddsJam's optimizer, but they include fantasy score. Now they also have a correlation tool on Daily Grind Fantasy. So definitely check them out. Link in the description for 25% off your first month. But as you can see, they do correlation, which is big in these pick'em sites now, especially for the ones they have listed. So if you're on Better, Boom, Dabble, Jock, definitely check those out. I'm going to be looking at PrizePicks and Underdog and kind of show you guys what's on there right now. But you can see, the track record kind of speaks for itself. They're attacking lines that happen together in unison more likely than not. So, in a parlay, if one line misses, it doesn't really matter. If all of them miss, it's the same as one line missing typically. So it's better if you want to, attack lines that happen in unison because, okay, if you miss all 5 of them, it doesn't hurt as much as missing just one on the whole leg. But you could also hit 5 of those as they kind of correlate, if that makes sense. But let's go check it out, kind of go over what they've been looking at right now. Now, PrizePicks is starting to shift their payouts a little bit, as they should, because a lot of people have been killing them with these. But you still can get that 25x with quarterback and receiver combos just by using pass completions instead of passing yards. So you can definitely mix around with yourself. Sometimes I just start here and maybe even move around some of the lines a little bit that I like better. So for this one, they got a stack for that Packers versus 49ers game. That's today at 8:15. So they got Brock Purdy over 20.0 pass completions. Jordan Love over 22.5 pass completions. Ayuk, Watson, Debo, and then Wicks. They are all correlations. If these guys are going over their pass completions, these receivers should be hitting their yards as well. You could also do this on the other side of things where you're going on the under. Now, the optimizer here or the correlation tool is already putting the lines into account. So they're attacking lines that have a higher likelihood of going over together rather than under together. So in this line, maybe Brock Purdy or Jordan Love's passing completions line is a little bit too low. So that's why they're attacking the over and then correlating it with their receivers. But you will see unders as well. It's not just overs. Looks like they like CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson. And then again, their receivers right here would make sense that they're hitting their overs if they're going over their pass completions. They have CS2 also. This is a game stack for CS2. Not sure exactly how it works, but you can see the correlation score, the profit margin if you were to hit all of them. So that's cool to see as well. It looks like they have a decent amount on Underdog as well. But yeah, just a few different ways you could do this. Looks like all the overs are projecting in terms of correlation. Seeing if I can even find an under right now. Over. Everyone's liking the overs. Here's an under right here. So this is Texans-Ravens under. So passing touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. Again, they kind of figured out how to make it so you can still get the maximum payout while being correlated. So you can see it's passing touchdowns, it's passing yards for CJ Stroud, receiving targets for the receivers just because they don't correlate as much as maybe, passing yards and receiving yards. But yeah, this is kind of the way it works. Definitely some plays that you could run with, or at least starting points that you guys could start with. So yeah, this would be a solid one over here for the Texans Ravens. Again, these are all overs. But if you're not liking the passing game today, maybe you like all unders. And again, it's just a correlation way that you can do that. So yeah, don't going to give you a specific slip just because I've done that earlier in the week with the Detroit Tampa Bay game. But yeah, just wanted to point that out. The correlation tool is great over there. So that will do it for this one. Again, got you guys 5 plays for the NBA today. Some of these games are a little bit early, and then we got some NFL later on today as well. So we'll be attacking the NFL slate tomorrow. We'll be attacking NBA tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next one.